Welcome back to Let's Talk Zoning. This is your host, Rosetta Taylor, and we have a special guest. I know her as Holly Hutchinson. However, she's gotten married. So, Holly, what's your new name?
Hello, LTZ listeners. I am Holly Lorenz with Candid Review Group. Happy to be here with you today, Rosetta.
Thank you, Holly. I am excited to have this conversation with you today. I always thought you were a fun spirit to be around and to converse with. So, what you said is survey readings. Tell us a little bit about your business and your background.
All right. Well, to start with, what is a survey reading? That typically refers to the process of reviewing and examining a property survey, either residential or an Alta survey if it's being used for a commercial transaction. And depending on who's doing the reading, that can be something as simple as just a boundary verification and a general encroachment check. But at CRG, we do a little more of an in-depth review to check everything, like scouring the legal description, every determination on an easement, closure to acreage, look for any flood, wetland, environmental, PUD or zoning concerns, and make sure everything's addressed on the survey. And we even go so far as to check current maps to ensure everything affecting a property is shown on the drawing as it should be.
All right. So, how did you, real quick before I get into the next question, you said review to check for any zoning concerns. What are you reviewing for that?
So the survey is a little limited as to what they can show us in regards to zoning, but we are able to check that the setbacks or plottable restrictions are shown on the drawing.
Oh, okay.
We can
Okay.
verify any of the physical encroachments, either of building or parking setbacks. If there's any building or height or parking requirements or restrictions, we can check that the property is in compliance there. And even if the setbacks and restrictions or requirements come from a PUD or an easement, we can check that too.
Okay. So off topic real quick, not really off topic,
Mhm.
but like with respect to like the zoning and setbacks being depicted on the survey and during your survey reading, do you find it more often that the rear setback is not plotted on the auto surveys?
So, unfortunately, at CRG, we usually see surveys that are completed and set to close before the zoning can even be provided and applied to the survey. Um, just because of time constraints or scheduling, they just have to move ahead before it gets there. But even when the zoning is provided, there's often one of them that's mislabeled or not shown at all. But because
Mhm.
of our wonderful technology, we have programs that can measure where the setback line should be on the drawing. And if it
Okay.
isn't drawn, we can still measure it manually and see if there is a potential encroachment that would be there.
Okay. That's smart. That's good. All right. So how did you get introduced to this field? Because I feel like this survey reading isn't necessarily like coordinating a survey or being a surveyor. So how were you introduced to this and what kind of gave you the confidence to say, hey, I'm gonna go out and start my own business?
Yeah, it is kind of a niche little area. I started with a coordination firm that worked with surveyors mostly. And then I kind of got moved over into the project management side and dealing with clients and understanding what their expectations are. And then when I got moved over to the survey readings, it was again, there's another need from the title side of it. So I'm in that unique position where those three groups that deal on a transaction don't really interact with each other and don't have the same criteria. And so when I decided to start out on my own, like I went and worked with surveyors and title and clients and figured out, a way to make this a very concise, streamlined way to make everything very clear to all parties on this transaction.
How do you think survey reading helps with zoning?
Uh, from the zoning side of things, well, we at least can verify the physical encroachments of a building or parking setback. We can check for the height requirements or restrictions and see if a property is in compliance. I went over that. Sorry. I'm real sorry. We skipped around a little bit here.
No, you're fine. I do that on purpose. I skip
You
that
messed
on purpose.
me
Yeah,
up.
you gotta keep up, Holly. You gotta keep up.
I know.
So while you read your notes, so I feel like that's that's what the zoning assessment report does. It basically breaks down the setbacks and parking and everything like that. So how is survey reading different from a zoning report?
So survey reading, we go more into the legal descriptions and the easements and all that. We don't focus on just the zoning issues.
Okay, good.
We check for all the environmental and wetland and stuff because you'll have properties where people want to build an improvement inside of a wetland area for ducks or something. You have
Yeah.
to watch out for those $1 million lawsuits. So we really go through every little line and make sure everything from title is carried over to the survey and there's not going to be any issues down the line for the client.
Okay. That's good. All right. And then I think you already answered this, but I'm not sure. But why is survey reading important?
Again, it's especially the transactions that are in a hurry. Uh, we don't want to just go to the closing table and not know what's going to be in the title report as far as exceptions. And if there's a boundary discrepancy or a misplotted easement or a flood zone is described improperly, there's any number of things that could cause an issue. And we want to
Yeah.
make sure that everyone is aware of that before we get to the closing table.
You know what? It sounds more like quality control, like survey reading. It's like quality control for the surveys.
There's a part of that that we do too. For a candid review, we actually split it up into three sections where one is just the encroachments of the physical improvements on the property. The
Mm-hmm.
second part is like an endorsement review for everything that title's going to need as far as the legal description and acreage and all that. And then the third section is the quality control to make sure everything is properly addressed on the survey.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That makes sense. So I definitely understand. Like it seems so small, but it really is an important factor to off the survey,
Mhm.
getting that survey reading done. So what do you find to be your what makes you stuck? Like what happens to where you can't complete a survey review? Like what information would you need to be able to fully complete a survey reading?
Usually by the time it gets to me, they've worked out the things that would be really a deal breaker if they can't figure out the legal description or something.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
because really it's a comparison of the two documents and then just looking for any other red flags that might pop up.
All right. And your capacity, you have a team what's the capacity of reviews that you could do in like a week?
For my team,
Hmm.
you're trying to set me up right now, aren't you?
I mean, could you handle a portfolio? Like first off, what's the turnaround time for a survey review?
So the typical one takes about 6 hours to complete from start to finish,
Hmm.
depending on the scope of it. I mean, if you have a golf course on an island, that might take a couple of days because you have all the water on every side, and they like to put those 5 foot easements all over the
Right.
entire thing.
A
Yeah,
golf course on an island. Okay.
that's usually like it never fails. It's a holiday weekend, and you get that like the night before Christmas. They say, "I need this back tomorrow morning. Here's 4 of them," and you go, "No, thank you." No.
Next. So
Uh,
do you have competition? Are there other survey reading firms or independent companies out there that's providing this service?
so it's usually the title company has some people assigned to doing them.
Okay.
But not to speak poorly of them, but they are a little bit watered down from what we do. So
You
they
guys are
can
able
kind
to
of,
like really get deep into it. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, you end up at that quality or quantity point when you get to the bottleneck of the project, especially on a big portfolio. Like right now, we have a 15 site that's coming through that's due in like 4 days. So we're pushing to
Okay.
get that out. But
All right, that's good. So you still in how long you been doing this for?
I've had CRG for 7, almost 8 years now.
Oh wow. That's so because I know we met about like what 8 years ago or
That
more.
a little more than 10, I think.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord, that's a long time.
Not to age us or
Right.
anything.
That's exactly what happened. We did age ourselves. All right. So that's great. Thank you
Yeah.
for coming on Let's Talk Zoning and sharing your expertise.
Mhm.
And maybe one day we'll be using you for a survey reading. I definitely want to learn more about survey reading. So if you could train me sometime? Like, let's schedule some time and kind of train me on how to do survey readings. I promise you, I won't go start a business
That's all right.
doing it. I just want to just learn more about it. But who would people contact with respect to survey readings at Candid Group? How can they get in contact with you?
Well, we have the website, it's candidreviewgroup.com. But usually the title officer has their people that they trust to do those things if you don't have them, or some of the coordination firms do have a team that might be able to help out.
All right. Thank you, Holly. Do you have any shout outs?
Well, right now we are working on making a virtual class as far as teaching more people in the industry the things to look for on surveys.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we're getting a new program in line, working with software writers and writing code. Oh my goodness. That is something I never hope to have to do again, but
Right.
hopefully it'll make a better program so everything moves a little faster and smoother for everybody.
Yeah, you're such a busy woman.
Always,
And then
right?
I also want to give you your flowers. You got married, you created this whole
Yeah.
life. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. 4 kinds of cancer, and I whooped it.
Oh, see, you're a cancer survivor. Like all of
Yeah.
that is real huge. I'm glad you're still here, able to come on Let's Talk Zoning and share your story.
Thank you.
And I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.